Max normally starts fairly slow, kind of just, feels his way through the first round, starts to build into the second, really starts to turn it on in the third. And if he's got a fourth and fifth, he's putting a ton of output on. But Kattar does basically the same thing. He was a guy kind of feels out in the first round and then starts to build and bring it. So I looked at the output and I thought that Max had a little bit of an advantage in the fact that he's gone 5 rounds way more. He was used to it. And we've seen that he could bring that pace into the 5th round. I looked at power and I gave it to Kattar.
Yeah.
I thought that Calvin had the bigger power, but I always looked and said, but I know that Max lives off of volume, and it's that volume. Does he continue to build it? And does he not accept punishment in the early rounds that allows him to continue with that volume into the later rounds? And then it was the footwork was the other thing. I said, I thought Max was the more complete MMA fighter with the kicks and everything. He just proved me wrong in everything as far as he was better everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Even power, he landed the heavier strikes for the most part throughout the fight. The volume was just incredible. Unbelievable how many, when we talk about fighters and we talk about guys that lead the dance, guys that are the initiators in the fight, and then guys that are the counter strikers. He was both, Josh.
Yeah.
He was leading the dance, and then when Kattar would try to counter, he would counter that counter and land the strike. It was just an incredible. It was the best performance I'd ever seen Holloway have. Besides, everyone's forgetting that Ortega fight.
Yes, that was a great fight.
Oh my God, it was so good. He was so on point. But we were texting during the fight, and I go, dude, when you're on, you're on, and you go, there's beyond on.
Yeah, there's beyond on. He was, and let me just give you a rundown real quick on beyond being beyond on is what he was. He shattered the records basically last night, and the significant strikes landed. It's 445 is what he threw or what he landed. The record before was 290. Significant strikes attempt 744. The previous record was 515. Distance strikes landed, so he threw 439 of them. 280 was the record before. Significant head strikes landed 274. The record before was 244. Significant body strikes landed was 117 by him. 92 was the record before. I mean, the list goes on and on. Total strikes landed 447. The previous record was 361. Total strikes attempted 746. And the previous record was 541. 541. He destroyed the records in every class last night on the feet. But the one thing that I will say is I was wrong as well. I was wrong in the fact that I thought he'd have to wrestle more and mix it up to open up the striking. But what he did was he mixed up his striking all the way around. He hit Kattar with a beautiful body shot in the first round. Body
shots were the difference in the fight because he went to the body continuously, Josh.
Yeah.
It never stopped.
But in the first round, though, he landed a body kick that set Kattar back on his heels. It was nasty. It was loud. I want to say it was like towards the end of the first round.
It was that spinning kick that he threw.
Boom. And then as the fight went on, he kind of got away from it a little bit. Started throwing it again later in the 4th and the 5th round, I believe. But he was just putting together the combinations. And I also think when you have someone who hits who has some power like Kattar does, he did a great job at minimizing that power by hitting that little John Jones thigh kick.
Yep.
That thigh
I was just going to say it.
Takes away from the actual power because
every time he got heavy on that front leg, you saw him do that little stomp kick to the knee that made Kattar go, oh, my weight's got to come back a little bit.
Yep, and when your weight comes back, that means you can't sit down on your punch and you can't throw the power that you want to throw. Look, the story of last night was how much he mixed it up. Max Holloway mixed it up, the output in which he did it, and also just the speed. His speed never slowed down from the moment the fight started to the end of the fight. He was just as fast in the first round as he was in the 5th round. And I'm going to be honest, I've said for the longest time that I thought Patricio would beat those guys at 145. But I got to tell you, last night, Max Holloways wouldn't beat that came last night. He would not beat that Max that came last night.
I agree.
And that's the only, and people need to hear it. Like, I know that we talk about being homers.
When I see it,
that fight and that performance last night was fucking just amazing.
Remarkable.
It was remarkable to watch him do what he did last night to a very, very good fighter.
Exactly. And that's the other thing we have to bring up. Look, it takes two to make something like that happen. And I know that people are going to sit there and say, John, you're saying, he got killed. He did. Calvin just got eaten up by a better fighter last night. But, man, you have got to give it to Calvin Kattar as far as heart, guts. Man, some of those body shots he was taking, Josh, again, unless you have taken body shots, you don't know. Yeah. You think, it hurts. No, it freaking paralyzes you. And he was taking, so many of them and stayed in the fight. He was so tough. His nose was broken. He never quit. I think between the 4th and 5th round, I texted you and I said, look at his posture on the stool, because he knew, he's getting talked to by Tyson Chartier and he's trying to give him some information. And he's like, it ain't working, man. Yeah. But he's not saying it, but he's showing it through his body language. But I want to say this about the whole thing. Daniel Cormier made some comments throughout that fight about, this needs to be stopped. There was only one person that could stop that fight. Yeah. Okay. And it wasn't Herb Dean. Because if I put Daniel Cormier back into when he was fighting and we have Herb Dean stop Daniel Cormier when he's Calvin Kattar, Daniel Cormier would have lost his fucking mind. Yeah. Because he's going to go back saying, you took my ability. I always have a chance. I never hit the ground. What are you doing? Herb couldn't have stopped. There came a point it was close in the 4th. He could have. Yeah, from that. It was getting close. Yes. But Kattar was always at least trying at times to fight back. When you got a guy throwing elbows, you've got to cover. You can't always just, get that offense, and you've got to give him that space. And that's what Herb was doing. The only people that could have stopped that fight was Kattar's corner. Mm-hmm. They could have done it. And there's nothing that anyone can say because they know their guy better than anyone. Yeah. And they could have done it. Herb couldn't have done it. And Daniel would have been absolutely livid if he was the fighter in there and a referee stopped him at those moments.
Yeah, I was looking at the fight as well, and I was thinking that there was moments there where Herb could have jumped. Close. Herb could have jumped in, but then every time when Herb would tell him do something, he did it.
Fight back.
He threw one. He waited for his moment though. He didn't just do it right away because the ref said it, which is smart on his part. Yeah. But he waited a second and he threw a shot. A couple times he landed some shots in those exchanges because Max was just getting off. It really just came down to the fact that when I started watching, I was listening to the corner as well, into Kattar's corner, is that when he did listen to his corner kept telling him from the first round, you're waiting. You have to go. You have to go. When he went first, he had success. He didn't go first majority of the time. But that came down to the fact that he realized how fast Max was in the first round. Because, it's not just that. It's the speed. The speed itself makes you hesitant. It makes you flinch. It makes your reaction time. You're so tense that nothing comes out fluidly. So that means that you're forcing things and then your opponent sees it. When you load up, it causes you to load up because you're afraid that if you throw and you miss, you're going to get hit. That's what slows you down. You've got to do it naturally. It's got to come out in combinations. It was coming out last night in combinations for Max Holloway, but it was not coming out in combinations for Kattar. That was the difference last night in the fight, and you saw it from the moment the fight started. But in my mind, when I was texting you, I said, damn, I go, he just needs to throw. He needs to get off, but he can't. Max is so much faster than him. He just can't get off. And that was when they came back and gave him information in the corner. I'm like, he's got to force the issue. Because I used to spar with a guy named Thomas Dion's, and man, he was fucking fast. The only way that I could beat him in sparring was I had to get into his grill, put my forehead into his chin, and just stay there like in a phone booth. Because if I gave him any space, he would fuck me up. I mean, and this, and Thomas didn't have a great MMA career, you know what I mean? But when sparring, he was just nasty. I mean, he would spar with Luke Rockhold and just have have his way with Luke if Luke let him stay on the distance because he was so damn fast. And he mixed it up like how Max mixed it up last night. Side kicks to the body, spinning back kicks, side kicks to the face, long jabs, inside leg kicks, come over the top, overhand rights. I mean, Max last night was on point. And Kattar, just with the speed factor, had no way of figuring out where he was going and what he was doing, and the flinching and the tenseness of him keeping his hands up. It just wasn't making it come out fluidly, and it showed from the beginning of the fight.